Hey everyone, I'm coming to you a little bit bedraggled today because I've come out in from the garden and I'm well, I'm a bit of a mess. Um, I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome. You know that feeling when you just start to doubt yourself, when you start to think, I'm not really very good, and I have definitely experienced that as a consultant and as a nurse. I experienced it very badly as a nurse. I got bullied very badly when I was a staff nurse, so to the point where I needed a bit of counselling to help me through that. But I ended up being a ward sister, so I managed to get through that. Um, and um, and as a gardener as well. And I have my own gardening business. For some people who don't know that about me, you all probably know that I adore and love gardening, but you probably don't know that I actually have my own gardening business. And I have RHS qualifications. Anyway, I'm going to give an example of imposter syndrome. How I started out in my gardening business is I have loved gardening forever, and a friend of mine, this is donkeys years ago now, when the kids were very weeny. My children are now, this is going to make me feel very old, my children are now 29, almost 26 and 21. When they were very little and at not quite at school, or some of them might have been at school and at nursery, I was getting really bored. And one of my friends said to me, look, I can't find a gardener and you love gardening and your garden's looking fab. Would you mind just coming and give me a hand? And in fact, do you know what? You're so good with your garden, I'd even pay you. How do you fancy that? Earning a little bit of pin money. And so I just started earning a bit of pin money, doing a bit of gardening for her. And then my gardening business took off because she had some people who used to come and mow her lawn, and they saw me there week after week. It just happened that I was there looking after her garden when they came to mow her lawn, and they said, we really often get asked for gardeners and there's not many of them around at the moment. Would you mind us handing your card out? And I of course had no card because I was just doing it to help my friend, and so I quickly made some cards myself, business cards, and the rest is history, as they say. And my business took off. This is before I was a one-to-one diet consultant. And at that point I had very little qualifications. I was just all self-taught, pure self-love. But I obviously then went on and quickly got qualified. And some years went by, and my friend, another friend this is, I was working in her garden, and she had a very high, very well-known garden designer who came and did her garden for her. And I'd done a little bit of work on a border, redesigning a border, and there was a complete redesign of another area of her garden. It was a huge acres and acres her garden was. And this particular area of her garden, she paid, I dread to think, it was a lot of money that she paid for this very well-known garden designer. And I took one look at it and thought, there's no way that these plants are going to survive. It was the wrong plant for the wrong place. They were crammed way too close together. That it just wasn't going to, they were going to die. They weren't going to last very long. And I sat there thinking, having for a long time been thinking, oh my Lord, who am I in comparison to this big name? When this border was finally done. So the imposter syndrome from before of, all I had was at that point a City and Guilds qualification. This big name came along, and the garden design that they did for this little border, my border that I did, was way better. So from that point onwards, I remembered to always remind myself that this image that I'm about to show you, so here, this is about imposter syndrome. It says, what I what I think others know and what I know. That's what imposter syndrome, the assumption is. So what I know and what I think others know. So we think we know very little and we think others know an awful lot, which is what I thought about the garden designer. And I thought I knew very, very little with my little, at that point, City and Guilds qualification for horticulture, when actually it's probably much more to do with that. In fact, actually, the garden designer didn't know an awful lot, I have to say. And I probably knew a little bit more. So, so it's just a reminder that it's not this, actually. We think it's this, but it's really, really not. And we have to remind ourselves it's much more like that. And the imposter syndrome that we have inside ourselves is all to do with our low self-esteem. And we have to challenge that with facts and ask ourselves where that's coming from. And I've never, ever forgotten that experience that I had as a little wee, very inexperienced gardener. And I've always been thankful for that experience. And whenever I start to doubt myself, which of course we all naturally do, particularly if we've had difficult days or difficult situations in our days, we start to naturally doubt ourselves. I always I have this in my, I've got a little journal that I have, and I have this, and I remind myself of don't ever forget this, and don't ever forget that experience that you had as a gardener. So I just thought I'd share that for anyone struggling a little bit with imposter syndrome, and I hope that helps.